Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen. This is the PWTorch Fireside Chat for Friday, June 30th, 2023. I'm PWTorch Assistant Editor Zack Heydorn. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Tyler Sage. Tyler, man, what's going on? Happy Friday.
Hey, it's good. Just looked at the new LA Knight shirt that you told me about as we were about to start the show. I assume it's the one with the red and then the yellow yas. It's a big yellow yeah that says like LA Knight on the side and everything. So,
what do you think? Is this going in the maybe purchase column, or am I wrong to say that it's like kind of one of the cooler shirts?
You know, it was not what I was hoping for. I like a simple design.
Okay.
I would I like the yellow black. If it would just said, yeah, I didn't have all the little LA Knights over it, I think that'd be better. It'd be more of a shirt. You know, I deem a good wrestling shirt. It depends, right? It's either something you absolutely could not wear in public without explaining yourself. That's one side of wrestling shirt that I love. You know, this is for me, daddy ass. You know, did I buy that shirt? No. But, you know, is it something that is very quintessential wrestling? Yes. And then something more simple, like yeah, on a shirt or an Austin 316, whatever, I think works well as well. That you can kind of get away with, like, it doesn't even look like a wrestling shirt. I think can be very powerful wrestling shirts as well. So
that's usually where that's where I kind of usually draw the line. Like, I like them simple. Because you could expect WWE to put out a yeah shirt that has like LA Knight's face on it or something like that. And that's kind of like, you never know if you're going to get that kind of WWE shirt or something a little bit more tempered back. I thought we were probably headed for LA Knight's big face and just, you know, whatever. Yeah. And out of like a comic bubble or something like that. And this was simpler to me based on that expectation. So that's why I popped for it. I was like, oh, okay. They want to sell this shirt to somebody who's not, you know, who's not 6 years old. And so that's
but one of the other things is, like, when you look at vintage wrestling shirts, I think the ones that are the best, obviously, are the ones that have just, you know, your entire shirt is just a guy with a wrestler from the 90s with a shirt off, right? Like a Goldberg shirt. The best one is just him, like, I got a long sleeve and it's just him and it says, who's next? It's just him just like flexing and all, you know, and then, you know, full like a Sting shirt where it's just his face. I've got the Wolfpack Sting shirt where he's got the red and black paint. It's just literally his face. And it says, you know, the man they call Sting. It's just like, so those are, you know, in hindsight, those are the fun ones. Like the LA Knight one with a bubble, I think would last longer.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yes.
But from like a continuity standpoint, now it's just kind of a thing. Like the Bloodline one where they're all, you know, in suits around the table, I think will be the enduring Bloodline shirt when 20 years from now people are looking for a vintage version of that. So
yeah,
it's all kind of give and take.
That shirt, you're right. I think that shirt will be like the standing piece of merch from that.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if I would wear that shirt. I just don't know that I would. I want to say that I would because it's a cool looking shirt, but I need something a little more simple.
So we don't want to lose this on here. I'm going to get one for Sean's asking in the chat a couple of times. I just have, he asked about my Dynamite reports. They'll be back. Don't worry. I just had a couple of weeks in a row here where I couldn't watch it live. And I just don't, it's different when you're doing a live report on a show that has already been watched by everybody. It's not as powerful. So I just don't want to like lessen the quality. So be back next week. Everything's good. So thank you for asking.
There you go. Hello to everybody who's in our chat right now. Milano and Sean, Cody's in there. What's going on, Cody? Azan, of course. Yes, we are talking about t-shirts. It was not on the run sheet to have this long of a discussion on wrestling t-shirts, but hey, that's what you get here on the Fireside Chat. Dr. Ross, hello, is somebody who is on this show, but could spoil some things as far as SmackDown goes tonight. So no spoilers from our UK friends, but we got a lot to get to today. A lot to discuss. It's gonna be a big weekend in pro wrestling. We got Money in the Bank tomorrow afternoon here in the United States. So that obviously is a major event. For those of you who are joining us live and haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so. We're live multiple times during the week. We've got interviews that go up during the week. Stephanie Chase has videos that go up during the week as well. So subscribe, hit the notification button. We've also turned on super chat feature if you guys want to help us out and for a paid contribution to the show, we'll make sure to bump that all to the top of the list here and make sure that we get it. We certainly would appreciate any contributions that anyone feels like that they can provide. With that said, we're going to talk Money in the Bank. That's going to be a big portion of the show. But Tyler, I wanted to start with the Dynamite rating. It came in for this week's episode of Dynamite, coming out of Forbidden Door, and 809,000 total viewers. That's down pretty significantly week over week. But it's the adult 18 to 49 number, the rating that is going to leave people a little bit stunned, and which is what probably has Tony Khan kind of surmising as to what to do next. The lowest 18 to 49 rating in 3 years. So, what do you make of that and of their momentum coming out of Forbidden Door?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so all this sort of stuff, I take my personal story and how I'm feeling as a fan. And probably, that's obviously not how every single person is feeling. But I think a lot of people could agree that, especially this week, there's a lot of AEW content to consume. And it's the first week in the company's history where we've had a 2-hour Wednesday show, a 2-hour Saturday show, a 5-6 hours, depending if you're watching the pre-show, pay-per-view. And then you have another show a couple of days later that is really nothing that happened on the show, minus some Blackpool Combat Club and Elite happenings continuing. And then obviously Moxley and Ishii having their match, but that doesn't really mean anything long-term, right? So, just a lot of content. So is that means the product is not super hot? I don't think so. I think it is that there's a ton of stuff. I didn't watch Dynamite live, that's why I didn't do the report. And I watched it later. I thought it was totally a fine show. Was it something that I would rush out and tell everyone they have to watch? Probably not. But it is still a good quality show. I thought Collision was the same way, and that rating I think is less, problematic. I think we all kind of had expectations set for what that's going to be, and that kind of feels like it's already. I mean, it's got nowhere to go, but probably down. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a lot of content this week, and I'm curious to see how that goes week over week or after pay-per-views when you have, if you include Rampage, you've got basically 10 hours of how many hours in a week? 178 or something, 182, whatever the math is, including your sleeping time. So when you're filling, 10 plus hours, and that's if you're not watching WWE, right? So that's a lot to ask of anybody from anything, right? I mean, that's like NFL football level of you're going to plunk down 10 hours and that's in one day. So it's kind of easier to do it. So I just think all that is kind of hard. I'm curious what the 7-day numbers are on that Dynamite. If that's more around the, 1.1 that they typically do, I think it'd probably be more views after the live view than people are catching up. But, I don't see it as too worrisome. The card didn't look tremendous, but Dynamite kind of needs that as well. We haven't gotten into how Collision is, but you need it's been 3 or 4 pretty good Dynamites. You kind of need a one that is just totally okay to kind of level things out and make the other ones feel more impressive. So I thought the crowd was good, which is a positive. But that's kind of where I am. So not ringing the bell of freaking out, but I'm curious what you think as I shut my door.
Well, I just wonder if it's a more of a if we're starting to see symptoms of that Collision show kind of seeping into, and breaking down everybody's Dynamite or everybody's AEW week. Look, there's only so many hours in a week for wrestling. If you want to watch WWE and AEW, I imagine that people are going to start picking and choosing what they watch. And so 1 week you can't like really pull any definitive conclusions out of 1 week. But, I wonder if like this is the new kind of the new benchmark for Dynamite, because you have people that are going to watch Collision on Saturday nights. And it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I'll catch Dynamite when I can because I really want to watch Collision, and that's a choice that they're making. So I think like the patterns of people's viewing habits are going to be interesting to see here take place. I also think that, just the bottom line is the show itself was a fine show, but it didn't have anything like, it didn't have like some kind of big draw on it. Like the main event was, 2/3 of the match at Forbidden Door, like that they just saw a couple days beforehand. Ishii and Jon Moxley, like, I mean, if I don't think that's going to make people go, I have to catch that match. And there really wasn't anything much else on the show itself that I think was like heavily promoted to try to draw some numbers either. You had the Jungle Boy Jack Perry thing, which I thought was a swing and a miss. I feel like I'm in the minority on that. But
well, I'm with you on that. So
oh, you are? Okay. All right, good.
Yeah.
That's nice to see. Because I really felt like that it got, I don't want to say it got praised, but it's just like, I thought it was just a really big miss on his part. And just the whole concept in general. But we'll talk about that in a second. But to take a step back, you're going to have shows like this. Like you're going to have shows like this. You're good. Like Raw a couple weeks ago was that way, where it's like, okay, it's going to be a filler episode of your weekly episodic television. And I think that's what this is. So my takeaway is just to watch, you added in a 2-hour must-see show, quote unquote, with a Collision. That doesn't mean, people are going to rearrange their whole lives to make sure they get that in. And so you may be asking people to pick and choose. And if they start picking Collision consistently, that number is going to go up or be what it is. And Dynamite might go down. So I think it's just something from a pattern perspective that interests me more.
And if you want to like do the kind of sleazy corporate talk, if you're PR for AEW, I'm sure if you added Raw plus NXT versus Dynamite plus Collision plus Rampage, if they're doing even one more person in viewership a week more than the WWE stuff, I think they would consider that a pretty big win, that they're beating their competition on cable. I don't know if that's the case week in and week out, but I think that would be, if I was Tony Khan grasping at straws here, that's what you want to do. Because people are, especially live. I mean, I think it's good numbers right now watching both live, and the time for Rampage and for Collision is obviously, as we all know, not super ideal for everybody. So
yeah, right. Well, right. I mean, Rampage, it's just totally fallen off. Like, so let's talk about the Jungle Boy promo. I thought it was a really big miss. I thought it was a really like a whiff. I thought Jungle Boy decided that, hey, this is how a heel acts, and I need to act the way that a heel acts. And so I thought he really tried to play a part rather than be his character. And I thought it just totally fell flat. I thought like his one-liners about the wildfires and about Anna Jay were tasteless and also just poorly received anyway. And it just drove home the point for me of like, this guy is he's a failed babyface is what he is, and not like this budding heel. And I think that's a problem. And he was trying way too hard. I thought it was a desperate attempt for heat. And I don't really think any of it landed.
Yeah, I'd be curious how much we see of him post Hook. I assume the plan would be for him to beat Hook and then like just get rid of the FTW title forever. It would be a good storyline. But at this point, like if I'm Tony Khan, do I pivot that and have Hook beat him and then retire the FTW title, which you can do that in the same way because he's his own man, and then you can have Jungle Boy disappear for a while. Like, I don't know what your financial commitment is to this point with Jungle Boy, but like he needs to probably be off TV for a while and then see what happens when he comes back, sort of thing. Because this was, I mean, I would say an utter disaster. And when I'm watching the show, my wife is on TikTok scrolling through, and she stops what she's doing, and goes like, "Man, he is not good at this." Like, without me saying anything, it's not ideal. And coming out and like someone said in the comments, they're doing a heel cosplay. It's like, hey, I'm gonna wear the leather jacket and have sunglasses and pull my hair back, which my hair's pulled back today. So I was like, oh no,
You're
do I
such
have
a
heel
heel.
hair?
Such a heel.
Because me and Jungle Boy have about the same hair. So I was like, oh no, he's got. I guess I'm a heel when I have my hair up for the show. But just all the other stuff. So there you go. But didn't love it, and it's weird that he probably should have stayed with Christian in storyline and had this happen earlier, because I think like Christian being his like heel daddy makes a lot more sense, and maybe they'll do that eventually, and he'll be like, hey, you were right, and then like bend the knee. That'd probably be the only way to save him as a heel at this point, is to kind of get heat secondarily off of, and that would work. Christian's a great talker. He can hype up matches, and Jungle Boy can have pretty solid matches with whoever. So that would be a winning combo to lean back on that. But that's like totally forfeiting the Jungle Boy main event thing, which I think is totally fine to do. And, if there's 10,000 wrestlers out there, 5 or 6 get to be super duper tip top stars. So I think it's totally fine.
And then, it's really, if he ends up with Christian again, it's like, boy, we're full circle, and really, really went nowhere with him. And I'm not loving where they're taking this thing right now. What did anything else stand out to you on Dynamite this week? Like, what did you think of this, the Forbidden Door follow-up, like in terms of how they framed some of the big matches?
Yeah, they gave time to the Danielson and Okada thing, which I liked, and then obviously Kenny and Ospreay, but no one, of those 4 guys were on the TV, so it felt very much like a 90s, Raw or Nitro, where something really big happened the night before on the pay-per-view, but they kind of don't show those guys and then tease you so you buy the replay, is what AEW's kind of always felt like on those big main event things. Like, whenever someone wins the title, they never really come out and have a big coronation ceremony and whatnot. They kind of are off the show the following week and then come back. So I just don't love that style. But everything else is fine. I think from not selling all of your stories and pushing them into Forbidden Door, this was an easier transition out of it this week, because we set up Blood and Guts, and August is absolutely crazy because Arthur Ashe shows at sometime in August, and then we've got All In, and then All Out, and then we've got just some of those weeks are going to be 2 weeks in a row of Dynamite, Collision, Big Show. Dynamite, Collision, Big Show is going to be really, really, really pushing it, I think. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
And then the thing is, then you add in, then you got SummerSlam in there. You've got like other wrestling shows in there too. So August is going to be crazy. September too. Okay, so brief AEW talk, but we want to spend the time mainly previewing Money in the Bank. So everybody who's watching live, drop your preview predictions in the chat here. We're going to pivot over to Money in the Bank. Again, thanks everybody who's joining us live. We do have Super Chat turned on, so we'd love any contributions that anybody would like to put forward there. Let's start with throwing Zach from Texas for a loop here. Let's talk Cody versus Dominic Mysterio first. We'll kick off with that match to preview. Tyler, man, I don't know how much else what you can say about this match other than I'm just looking forward to it. I want to see like tip-top babyface collide with very, very strong heel and have that happen in an environment that I think is going to be scorching hot, in London. Like, I'm looking forward to this. And is it going to be a 5-star classic in terms of in-ring prowess? No, but that's not why I'm tuning in either. So I think they've built this thing in a smart way. I think it's a good feud for Cody to have right now as he waits for Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, presumably. I'm totally fine with how they did this. And, I expect Cody to win, but man, I'm not dreading this match by any means.
Yeah, I'm not either. I mean, I've liked the Dom character for a long time, and this is also kind of like, Dominic post WrestleMania. I thought he had the same problem potentially in front of him that the Bloodline did of extending that story beyond that with Roman winning, and I think they've done both pretty successfully. Of even though Dominic did lose, that he didn't really lose much momentum, which granularly can be a problem from WWE's booking style, but him and in his group of like they have been for, I mean, geez, what's it been, like 18 months it feels like, that they've like Finn and Damian and Rhea and Dom have been like just innings eaters on that show and making exciting stuff and pushing stuff through, like, so getting rewarded, I think, too, like in the meta sense of like getting a lot of time for all of those characters is good. And are you 100% that Cody wins this? Because I'm
not 100%. Absolutely not. No, okay. I'm not 100% by any means, really. But go ahead, make your case.
Yeah, I mean, it just it's so easy, and because I mean, one of my dates wins SummerSlam, like mid-August.
Yeah,
early August.
Oh boy,
Everyone has it. Anyway, then, but if you need Cody something to do, let's say Brock's not available for many Raws before SummerSlam, like him getting a win against 5th. Dominic again later. Okay, so that's kind of close, but like it gives him a story to do, and like it's been all through the comments here is like Dom and Seth could be a pretty good feud, and that's your hottest heel on the show against a guy like Seth, and just Cody's a guy who can get screwed over and have 4 people team up to beat him, and he barely loses. That's a very easy story to tell, and then he can get the win later, as he's not going to win the title probably in the next 6 months, right? Maybe Royal Rumble at the earliest is a Cody opportunity to win the title. Mm-hmm. So a big win against Brock and then build up from there. This is like the time where you can get somebody over, and then Dominic can use that to take on Seth and then take on Cody when he's the champion, etc. So there's lots of things that you could do here, and I'm bullish on how both Mysterios are being used. LA Knight getting a big win against Rey last week, and then Dominic getting pushed here. Like, I mean, I think me and you have been pro Dominic for quite a while, really ever since the heel turn, especially. I don't know if I'm trying to track when he was heel, but yeah, I mean, I just think his character is quite the example of what the WWE style system can do if you go all in on somebody and make a ton of good choices. And, I think we would all agree he's not the world's greatest wrestler. He's certainly improved, but he's the benefit of what a WWE style character focused entertainment show can get you. Dom on AEW, like, can you imagine what that would be? And that's like not a slight on AEW. It's just that he would definitely, what would he be like he'd be pounding around with Ethan Page probably as a lackey at best if he was there. So him being a guy who you can legitimately think's beating Cody Rhodes and main eventing for world titles is an example of the WWE system and why it works so well.
Absolutely. And to me, I'm in the camp of like, who knows how long this is going to last for, we don't know. Hopefully for a really long time, and hopefully he can just keep rolling and keep the heel momentum and keep developing it. And, as he goes, but like, you strike when the iron's hot. Sean in the chat a little earlier talked about Hook and how Hook kind of was very, very hot at the end of 2021 into 2022. And then, fizzled. And it's like Tony Khan decided not to feed, the Hook thing, at that time for whatever reason. Well, he wasn't ready, which he probably wasn't. And whatever, a multitude of reasons, I'm sure. But when you don't feed something like that, like it goes away. Like sometimes, sometimes it can just overtake something like a Sami Zayn type thing, or like Bryan Danielson, Dana Bryan back in the day. But other times it can just totally fade. And I think Dominic was more like Hook in that what was happening with him had to be fed in order for it to keep going. And and WWE decided to do that. And so, yeah, he is a little bit limited. He's not as limited as Hook, I don't think. I don't know. If you're talking wrestling, I don't want this. I don't think this is like a crazy notion, but I mean, I think Dominic Mysterio could probably wrestle circles around Hook right now. Don't you think?
Yeah, like from a storytelling perspective, you mean? I mean, like it depends what you want. Like if you're doing like a, if you want to do like a legit strong style and then judo throws and things like that, I'm sure in that context, Hook's more athletic, certainly, and looks like the real deal. But yeah, telling a story and laying out a match, I would certainly lean on Dominic to be the guy to craft the match out of those two at this point, from what I've seen.
Yeah, right. And so, I think WWE decided like, hey, let's go with this. And if we don't know when it's going to end, like, all right, let's just put him with Cody. Cody needs something to do. We want him to stay cheered for sure. So let's put him against Dominic, and that's what we have here. The reason why I'm iffy about my pick is why I'm not 100% is like I wonder if like there is a Brock Lesnar appearance like in the cards here, where Dominic wins because Brock Lesnar destroys Cody Rhodes, and they're off to the third match on that, and Dom gets the victory. So that's why I'm kind of wondering, what do you make of that? Good finish?
Yeah, I mean, I think a appropriate finish for all involved. So, I think WWE's pretty good at like that. Seems like a pretty obvious finish, especially under Triple H when he's gotten creative control of the big shows. He's pretty good at subverting it just a tad bit. So you're like generally still surprised about it. I think that's been a very good skill of his in the booking position. But, it seems very obvious to, it's been at least one or two shows since that the wall near the announce table has broken by Brock Lesnar tackling somebody through it. So, I feel like that needs to happen. So, if you have that, if Brock does that while the ref's down, takes out Cody, and then, Finn Balor throws him in the ring, and a dead Dominic after taking 2 crossroads gets plopped on top of him, and you do the 1, 2, 3. That's, sets up your match easily with Brock and Dom, and then makes Dom look like the, chicken heel that he is, and it works for everybody. So I wouldn't be opposed to that at all.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens here. I think it's going to be a fun match. I wouldn't be surprised to see this. I don't know, maybe open the show. Maybe you might want to do it with one of your ladder matches, but I think you want to take advantage of a very refreshed crowd here with this one. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's talk about one of the Money in the Bank ladder matches. Talk with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Tyler, how do you think this thing has been built so far? We've got Trish Stratus, we've got Zoe Stark, we've got Io Sky, Bayley, Becky Lynch, and Zelina Vega in this match. Lots of stories between those women, and of course the overlying kind of thing on the line, which is the Money in the Bank briefcase. Do you like what they've done here, and who do you think's taking this thing? You're putting
Bayley over Shotzi already? You're already just picking Bayley over Shotzi?
I'm picking Bayley. I'm not even. Dr. Ross has not messaged me any spoilers, and I'm picking.
Yeah,
I'm picking Bayley.
Yeah. I'm trying to look. So we got 1, 2, 3. 3 have been champions, 3 haven't at the main event level. So yeah, I like that as a mix. Yeah, I mean a lot of stories with each other, and what do you want to do at SummerSlam? Do you want Trish and Becky saved for that if they're going to do something? Do you want to have, the in my opinion, and I would assume you would concur, that when Money in the Bank is used most properly, it's with someone who has not been a world champion and ideally is a heel, right? Because that's the best story out of that title belt. So you usually get one or the other, right? You get a face and then a heel depending on that. So yeah, I think Zoe winning here would be my pick. But, I wouldn't be surprised other way how it goes. I mean, I guess I'd just be shocked if, Zelina Vega won. But besides that, I think it's kind of open. And what kind of story do you want to tell? But that would be the, climbing the ladder, grabbing the brass ring moment for Zoe, which I think would be a good thing for especially people. I mean, she's been around when's her NXT debut? Like 2019, somewhere in there. So it's pre-pandemic, right?
She got hurt too. So
yeah. So it's been a long time, and if that were to happen, is that the way to go? Who does she take it on? All that stuff is up in the air. But yeah, I think it's been fine. I mean, Money in the Bank matches are hard to build in the end, and it's really like, hey, who are the two people I think could win, and who are the people that are inevitably going to feud after this because of something that happened in this match. And that's really fine. It's like booking the Rumble, right? You got to focus on maybe 5 people in the Rumble, and everyone else just shows up, and then you hope something else happens. I think Money in the Bank is, maybe you focus on 2 people you really think can win, so that there is some sort of way. So it's not a foregone conclusion, and everything else is kind of fits into place, and you get your spot people and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's been fine. But
I think your logic is sound. I'm taking Io Sky for the same type of reason, but just on the babyface side of things. And it's kind of, I don't know, like I can't get out of my head this notion that WWE, and I said this on the show yesterday with Stephanie, that they don't like having 2 of these things floating around very often, like a men's and a women's. So what I kind of think is going to happen is like there's clearly they're angling towards Io Sky versus Bayley at some point down the road, and so I'm picking Io to win this, and like that win to like be the catalyst for like that feud to go. So either Io tries to cash it in and Bayley costs her the match. Something to that effect is what I'm leaning towards here. Because the thing with Zoe Stark, and I mean, you make a good argument. I just don't know if it's time yet for her to overshadow Trish. And if she's holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, it's kind of like, I don't know what the dynamic would be in that type of situation. But she'd be, I think, a good potential winner. I think Becky Lynch could be a good potential winner too. Like if Becky were to win and just went, here's the briefcase, I'm cashing in Money in the Bank at SummerSlam, Rhea Ripley, I'm calling you out, and that's how they get to that match. Like that match doesn't need Money in the Bank, but like it's an easy way for a big star to win it and then get rid of it, right out of the gate and cash in like a babyface would. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be opposed. I wouldn't be opposed to something like that either with her. And then like Zelina Vega, I just don't see it. I don't think she's ready yet. I don't think she's over enough. And Bayley, I think, has kind of been there, done that. So yeah, I think it's between Zoe and Io. If you were asking me to like drill it down, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
because last year's was Liv Morgan, right? I have that right. I think we watched it live on this channel. And
we did. Yep.
She cashed in the same night on Ronda.
Night. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that would definitely, you're not having, and then Austin Theory held it forever, right? He
wanted, and then cashed it in for the United States Championship.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to make sure, the lot 21 and 22 kind of blur together on things like that, especially that. Yeah, so that would be that. And I just don't know, I guess to take that historical view on it, do you think Liv Morgan is in a better spot today, June 30th, 2023, for having won that Money in the Bank and had that title run? Or do you think it was net neutral or net negative or net positive, I guess, for her?
Oh no, I think it was a net positive. I mean, that doesn't mean that her run was good, because I don't think her run was good, but I think it just, it told the audience like, hey, this is a bigger star. And so now I think she gets not top star reactions, not even like big star reactions, but she gets more of like a star reaction than she used to. So I think it's a net positive. Like no one's going to say, you know what? I'm not going to, I don't want to win Money in the Bank.
Yeah. Well, that's like, and I agree. I think she's over more now from like a general standpoint, especially with the fans and the reactions. So, if that's the Zoe Starks thing where maybe they're not, was Liv Morgan perfectly positioned to do that? Probably not at that point, but it was still better for her in the long run. So I think Zoe might be in that spot as well where, would I put the title on her right now? Probably not. But could it help her, solidify herself when Liv has the second run? I think that's where it's really going to play, and where she's like had it and it wasn't great, but now she kind of built her way back up and earned it as like that top act. I think Zoe could be a similar trajectory as well. So,
yeah. So speaking of Liv Morgan, she's back and she is tagging with Raquel Rodriguez against Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey for the women's tag titles, the undisputed women's tag team titles. What do you think, Tyler?
Have we ever talked about Raquel as a babyface on the show?
Yes, I think we have. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just don't know because like, I'm not the world's biggest Raquel fan, but her, Asuka-like run on NXT, I think was interesting at least. And like her as a babyface on SmackDown where she's just like,
the smiling thing drives me crazy.
Yeah. So like, to me, she's a natural heel, and that's kind of where I'm getting into this. Like, depends, like either they're going to win or go on a run here, or Liv is coming back, and this is a way to do the WWE style of they lose, Raquel turns on her, finally goes heel, and you have that match can be at SummerSlam, and that feels important enough. And you get Raquel in her natural state as a heel. And I think that's a good use for her. I mean, I think they've gotten more out of her as a babyface than I would have ever guessed, as being, like a mid-tier player who's just like there filling time and can lose, and you don't feel like they lose there. But, I don't have like the highest expectations for her, but if she was an elevated Nyla Rose in AEW, right, where she's like a gatekeeper for babyface champions' first title defense, I think that'd be a pretty good use. She can be a lot like Braun in that way when he was at his peak. So it's like always like, oh, I know there's a heel behind that smile one way or the other. And when it happens, I think it can be a pretty good turn, especially because she's always been a babyface on the main roster, right? Maybe when she first came up, she was a heel. Yeah. So
I think she's been the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting. But like the long story short, I think Ronda and Shayna win here, and then you kind of get that happening at the end of the match. But if not, I mean, I don't know. That seems like the most inspired thing to happen with all these groups. But I'm not super, obviously, not super behind the tag team here of Ronda and Shayna. But, at least Shayna's like feels more important than she has been on the main roster for a long time in this capacity.
Everyone's making me think about Dr. Ross says best smiler, Raquel or Finn Balor. And
yeah.
It's so true. Like there was I don't even know how long it was, maybe like a year or something like that, where it was clear Vince McMahon was like, Finn, just show those beautiful white teeth, and he would just grin ear to ear, and it would be so like embarrassing. And for Raquel, it's like the same. It's like the same thing. Like it's just like, okay, you're a baby face. Get it.
Yeah.
I have such a low bar for the women's tag division, unfortunately, that I don't think any of this has really been like, if I'm grading it without the curve of it being like women's tag division, like this is not good stuff. Like it just isn't. You got Ronda beating Raquel Rodriguez in 2 minutes on Raw. They barely have any time to like tell a real story together between the teams outside of like, revenge for Liv Morgan. So, I mean, like on a curve against everything else, I think it's really like one of the worst built matches on the show, if not the worst. But the where it kind of saves itself, I hope, is you got to keep putting over Ronda and Shayna strong here with the tag titles. Like if they flip them on Saturday to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, it's like those things are dead in the water. Like there's got to be a team that like Paul Levesque and company just decide, hey, like, okay, we're going to make this try to be something. And I think you have it around the waists of the women who can do that. Like Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler. I think they play off each other decently. They're not doing anything on their own. Rousey has fizzled as a singles act. And so, this is kind of the value that she has left, unfortunately. And I think that's more indicative of her progress than anything else. But it's like, you gotta you got to give these things some sort of continuity and some sort of like baseline foundation. And so I hope that they just roll right through Raquel and Liv here. And maybe you do another match down the road, but like you want Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler to become like synonymous with these titles at this point. And so the only way to do that is get them wins. That's the only thing that'll make me look at this match and go, okay, that was solid. So I think they win.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, certainly the weakest match on the card by quite a margin, I would say, from a build, from a anticipation of the match standpoint, either be a good gimmick or a good story or just a good match in the ring. So,
yeah. Okay. Finn Balor, the best smiler in the game, against Seth Rollins, World Heavyweight Championship. Man, they've done a nice job with this, in my opinion. Like they've really, I think, taken a match that you could have said, oh, that's a Raw match, and it literally happened on Raw not too long ago, and turned it into something a little bit more personal between both guys. I like, kind of pulling from the history of all those years ago, even though they've had multiple matches since then in which there was none of that was ever brought up. But hey, do it now. Why not? They got something here. And it's not, I don't think it's going to be something that lasts too much longer. And I don't think it's going to be something that's remembered necessarily for years and years. But for an early title match for Seth, I think you probably have it in as much of a good position as you can get it with somebody like Finn Balor. And I think both guys have just done a nice job of, making this serious and adding some depth with history. And, I like that in my wrestling. So I give this a thumbs up, but I think there's almost no way that Seth Rollins loses this belt here. Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's also a certainty, if Finn is okay with it, that Rollins hits that buckle bomb on Finn to call back the injury with that match. I think that would be a huge moment. And someone like Corey Graves hopefully could illustrate that on commentary. Would be interesting. And
good call. Yeah,
obviously,
good call.
Finn's going to sell the crap out of it, like he tore his labrum again. And then maybe Seth, does kind of the badass babyface thing he's doing, and finishes with a stop after that, and kind of looks like a guy not to be messed with. I think would be a good role with where his character is. But Demon, no Demon. He's lost as the Demon against Edge when he's 13 staple Balor. So that'd be interesting.
Oh yeah, he did. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the only loss as the Demon. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong. In WWE. So interesting if he does that. It's not the main event, certainly. Either it's the men's Money in the Bank or more likely the Bloodline tag, I would say, is more likely the main event. So if you're, I think this or the Cody match probably opens the show. But I think opening with this title too much is definitely, you're already fighting uphill. And that's just kind of more of a setting up the show standpoint. But, I wouldn't do it if I was Finn. But then, that's kind of the problem with that character and why they didn't do it too much. Because, basically, if you have to dress up as the Demon to win ever, it kind of tells you where you're going to be. So I would probably just go out as normal Finn if I had to guess. But it'd be cool if you did the Demon, especially in the UK. Lots of Northern Irish fans will be there, I'm sure. So should be a big reception. And go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you finish.
Oh, well, and that's something too you got to worry about if you're Seth. I mean, I think Seth is over enough with everybody. It'll probably be like a both these guys kind of crowd, and Finn's gonna have to work to get the booze. But when you're the native son and you're probably gonna lose again, just like Drew did in Wales, I think that's something a little bit to worry about. But probably another reason not to do the Demon. But it's also a big stadium show, or a big arena show. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
but I think Seth wins.
If Demon. Like the Demon, I think if he went out there as the Demon, like the benefit of that would be that it would add like another layer in my brain of like, oh, maybe Finn is going to win this, so I think it would help to that end, just because it has so much history there, and also like if he's not going to go Demon for like a major world title match, like then when Should he? It was like the one time that he wrestled Brock Lesnar for the world title and like didn't go out as the Demon, but then was squashed in like a minute and 15 seconds. It's like, okay. Like, well, so, maybe that's why.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and that iconic, you know, the buckle bomb for was it the Universal title when that first debuted? Yes. Is that what they were fighting for? So, you know, he was in full Demon regalia for that too. So that would be a good bookend on that.
Yeah, he was. So. Oh man, yeah, the Demon, that would be cool. I think that would, like, even if it is in the middle of the card or whenever, like, you know, man, I mean, sidebar here, but the world title for second straight pay-per-view in a row will be, you know, not in the main event, in favor of, you know, Roman Reigns tag team match. Not even like a Roman Reigns like world title defense, but a tag team match. So it's fallen right where everybody thought it was going to fall in terms of priority. Like, I think Seth looks good up with it, and it's kind of, you know, if you look at Monday Night Raw, like in a vacuum, you know, okay, it's cool to have, like, you know, world title on that show if you just are looking at that show. But boy, you know, when you see it up against these other big matches that are happening, and it's probably maybe the fourth biggest match on the show, you know, like, it's like, damn, like, all right, we're back to like a secondary world title. And I don't think you can get that stink off of it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much even. I mean, it was a one world title at this point, but very much the, you know, John Cena and Big Show main eventing pay-per-view as well. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson were world champions respectively at any different time, and you know, on kind of the opening or middle of the show. So not, I mean, viewership wise, a great era in comparison to current times, but creatively one of the weaker moments, one of the weaker times in WWE history, I would say. So
yeah. Okay, let's see. Let's go to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match next. So we've got LA Knight, we've got Santos Escobar. God, who am I missing here? Do you have it pulled up? LA Knight, Santos Escobar.
Yep, Ricochet, Shinsuke, Butch, Damian Priest, and some guy named Logan Paul. That's where my analysis is going to begin and end with this. You know, to me, this is the kind of thing that WWE wants to see Logan Paul parading around with all over the damn world for the next however many months. And then he can go back and feud with Seth Rollins, like, you know, cash in on him, and you're right back where you started with, you know, a second match between them at some point. I think, like, the other guy that I have to bring up, of course, is LA Knight, and I think not winning the Money in the Bank here is going to be more beneficial for him in the long run than winning it would be. Like, once you win Money in the Bank, like, you're on that path. Like, there's no way for you to get off of it, really. You're going to hold it. You're going to run around with it. I'm going to maybe cash in. I'm going to maybe not. Like, you're really like a one-note kind of act. And when you don't have really anybody great to cash in on either, like Roman, it's too soon for Roman and LA versus LA Knight. Like, Roman's just got other things to do. Seth, it's like developing babyface. Same thing with LA Knight. Not great. We've talked about that on the show. So I think you want him to be free of that kind of thing. And so the logical move to me is you just put it on the waist. You put it around Logan Paul. You know, he gets a win in WWE. He hasn't had one in a really, really long time. And so if you want to trot him out for matches and you want people to think he can actually win things, like, you got to give him some kind of win. I think this is the time to go ahead and do it. And, you know, that's what you do. I mean, Azad, he's not face yet, but, like, yeah, he pretty much is. I mean, he is, right? Yeah, I mean, he's going opposite of Logan Paul, who's a super heel. And, you know, that's like the most shared clip of WWE this year on TV is that it's his promo cutting him down, walking in the ring.
And he's not he's not like saying his prayers and eating his vitamins, but like he's babyface. And so I think LA Knight winning would be fun in the short term, but I think long term he can gain more momentum without it. And Logan Paul, come on, that's like perfect for what WWE wants. Like maybe it's not even what I want, but they want that, and so this is a good avenue for him to take it. I'm taking Logan Paul.
Yeah, I love your reasoning there, especially the LA Knight portion of it, because I do agree. I think you don't want to Baron Corbin him. You don't want to even Austin Theory last year him, which was a little too soon, and then they kind of pivoted, and both those are, cash-ins. You don't want the John Cena effect either, where he won it, and then like, does John Cena need the Money in the Bank? Absolutely not, right? So, if he wins it, LA Knight, I assume he goes against Roman in the September pay-per-view, and it's like, it is what it is, and then he's totally, he's in the Liv Morgan trajectory then of like building himself back up from getting there, and then, or he's like a Matt Riddle sans all the outside of the ring stuff, right? You're kind of in that spot. You get the opportunity, then you lose, obviously, because it's not really, doesn't make any sense for him to take it off of Roman at this point. If we're 6 months from now, hey, maybe, I don't know, but I think it's better for him long term to get that, not quite Zack Ryder at WrestleMania 32, climb that ladder and get the biggest pop of the night for the crowd. He needs to, he's a babyface, and you'll know it when he climbs to that top of that ladder and almost gets it, and then Logan Paul pushes it down and it beats him for it, right? Because you even have them wrestle afterwards too. Like if you want
exactly,
or him and Butch or whatever, right? There's lots of possibilities, and the only problem with the Logan Paul thing is, he just wrestled Seth at Mania, and he's already lost to Roman at the, Saudi show from last October. So, we've seen him against both those guys, so it feels like a foregone conclusion where it is. But if he gets a win here and beats some people along the way, and it feels more credible, and that's Royal Rumble match you can set up that, or Survivor Series, depending on how they set things up, that feels like, it makes sense on paper. It just doesn't feel super inspired to me as a viewer who's watching it. It makes a lot more sense when you have a whiteboard and you're planning things out. But, WWE's put themselves in the spot that I'd rather there be a third person, but, I just don't think anyone else has even a chance to win this thing. Shinsuke and Ricochet and Butch,
right.
And, they just have no chance. So it's kind of a two-man race, and the sugar rush of Knight winning is going to be awesome if it happens, but I think you're totally right, and that's going to stunt his growth long-term if he does win it here, because I don't feel there's confidence in him to be a world champion right now within the company. But there might be. In 6 months. Yeah.
And just think, you don't want LA Knight's not going to have a run-in cash-in on Roman Reigns, or he shouldn't anyway. That would stay with him in a negative way for a long time. So, there's a lot of moving parts, without question. So, but someone in the chat just mentioned LA Knight versus Austin Theory. That's a good feud. That is I think that's a stronger program for LA Knight than a Money in the Bank win. You know what I mean? It's cleaner, and I think it elevates him as a babyface more effectively. That, I think, is the kind of thing you need to look at for him, not, Money in the Bank. Because look, Money in the Bank is not the Royal Rumble. It's not the same type of crowning win. Yeah.
They don't talk about it at your Hall of Fame ceremony.
They're not talking about it at your
Money
Hall
in the
of Fame
Bank
ceremony.
Yeah.
Right. No.
They talk about, Royal Rumble wins and WrestleMania main events, stuff like that. So
exactly. Again, if they say, hey, LA Knight, you're going to win this, he's not going to say no, but I think, long term it would be better for him not to. So
what do you think he would say if they asked him?
Yeah.
There you go. I was to see if you could get by without saying it. Yeah. So anyway, sorry.
Couldn't do it. Oh man, where's my shirt?
Yeah.
My wife's gonna kill me when I buy that shirt in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
And you're at a nice dinner and you're wearing it.
Yeah, and then, God, that thing. Just imagine if I I was in high school and that was going on, God help our teachers. God help our teachers. All right. Let's go. We'll wrap up with the biggest match on the show, and one of the biggest matches of the year, I think, for WWE in the Bloodline Civil War. We've got the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. Obviously, we have a night's worth of build left on tonight's SmackDown. Dr. Ross is living in the future, so he's already seen some of what happens there. But this is a big match. Like, this is a big match, I think, for WWE in a lot of ways. And Tyler, I'll toss to you in a minute, but I think this match, you've got to hit from a match perspective, of course. Like, this is a big match. The bloodline's imploding. You gotta deliver a match that's worthy of this being on pay-per-view for the first time. That's one part. But I think what also you want to do here is, like, there's a whole line of storytelling that can be done post, or like in the midst of Bloodline Civil War, so you can do Roman against the two Usos in singles matches. You can do three brothers fighting each other and with Solo Sikoa there, combination of that. More tag matches between the four of them. Maybe do you expand out and do like a War Games thing at some point? Like, there's all sorts of like different avenues you can take this, but like this match, I think, has to set those up, in an effective way, or lay a good foundation there. So I think there's a lot riding on this for the future of the Bloodline story long term. I liked the turn. I did not like the post kind of turn promo that the Usos cut. I thought it was really like very one.
About the one last week on SmackDown over the show.
Yeah. The one last week I thought was just, they just took like lowest common denominator stuff. Like, oh, they disrespected me. No, it's time to leave the bloodline. And it's like, okay, there's like 12 other things that were going on here that like weren't even addressed. And so I didn't love that. Nothing that's going to take away from the match, I don't think. And overall, I think they got this tag team match to a really good spot. But the question now is, how do you get out of this match? How do you book this to move things forward? And I think you still want the Usos to be chasing something, because I think if you have them win here, story's kind of over at that point. I mean, you can play around with it and you can heat different parts of it up. I think you want them to chase a bit more in terms of taking Roman down. So for that reason, I'll take Roman and Solo here. But what say you?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think there's three, and there's obviously more than three, but your basic, most down the middle approach here. And I think I'm almost certain everything in these bloodline stories, everything with Roman and the bloodline interfering in matches, has been just like in the moment when you're watching it, you're like on the edge of your seat and you want to see what's going to happen, even though it feels like a foregone conclusion in hindsight. And you get kind of that post-match clarity of like, well, of course that's what was going to happen. The Sammy match, the Cody match, maybe not so much on the Cody match, you knew that was going to happen, but the Sammy match, you just believe that maybe it could happen. And the vibes, if you will, mid-match have been great with everything related to Roman, really since, I'm talking like Kevin Owens and him at Royal Rumble, 21, with like even the snafu with the handcuffs. Like anything Roman related has been perfectly like set up in the story. It feels like it's all hit, and it might be, it's what's the finish thing, because I have full faith that this is going to be a good story in the middle. And the most down the middle is obviously Solo taking the pin. I think, and then goes from there. The thing that's also down the middle is, Roman. Somehow they double team and Jimmy eats the pin for, maybe Roman hits him with a pump kick and pins him. That seems just as like, if that's like 49 and 49% likelihood of one of those two things happening, and then the 2% if you want to get really adventurous as a booker. And then this is where I would definitely be a hot shot booker, not a long term. I would critique myself pretty badly, because the trigger finger I would have to have Jimmy be a sleeper agent against Jay this whole time, and like Roman and Solo knew about it, and he just totally screws him over in this main event, turns on him, and then all three of them just beat down Jay, I think makes Jay a huge star and kind of continues that bloodline stuff of like, well, now you got to do Jimmy and Jay in a singles match against each other. And, Jay and Solo, if you really want Jay to be a big star, like you can have him move up the pyramid. I don't think that's going to be the case, but man, that would be insane if Jay's like, if they hit their, the finishing move and then Jay's about to get the pin and Jimmy just, pump kicks him in the face and then Roman spears him 1, 2, 3. Like that would be some tremendous stuff, but I don't know if that works long-term for the story, but it would certainly be on the path to make Jay the guy who inherits that top guy status at the end of this thing. So that's what I would do there. But, I think
that's a nice
you're
curveball.
right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little too adventurous for a WWE style. But, I think this, if the Usos win here, then you basically have to have Roman and Solo get the tag titles and be like, hey, you beat us, but we have the thing you want most, and then do it again, which doesn't make a ton of sense. Or they have to chase, and then it's like, how do they lose? Is it another member comes in, Paul Heyman does something to get someone else to screw them over, that makes total sense. And then maybe they're involved with that team. Maybe Heyman pays a team for a night to do that. That feels a little AEW-ish and not in a good way of someone taking a So, I think everything's been like a perfect story beat, or I've been, I love the Cody decision in the moment because it was just so ballsy. And I think it's panned out that was Cody's still just as hot, and that moment's going to be even bigger when it happens. So I have full faith in whatever happens, it's going to be a good decision. And I think WWE's earned that at this point with the story.
Yeah. This will be fun. I like your, because that's how you do get a lot more bandwidth out of the story if you do something kind of like really crazy like that. The one thing I think can't happen here is Roman getting pinned. Like that, I think absolutely can't happen. You don't want that to happen. Like you want to hold on to that for as long as you can until it makes absolute sense. And when you do pin him, like it's got to be for the world title, and like the next, or a popular babyface has to be the one to do that. And I think in a tag team situation, it's just that's not what you want. Do you? How much more can WWE get out of this? Like, talk a little bit about the different like scenarios of, okay, the Usos win, where do things go? And then on the flip side, Solo and Roman wins, where do things go with the bloodline in particular? Because like it's tough to really see some of that, because they've done so much of it already, and Roman's not around all the time. So it's like, where do you see those two things going based on the two potential outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm projecting what WWE is going to do, it definitely feels like the milking it line is more likely than not. But, is that something where in Survivor Series, there's a match where there's, the Usos versus, the rest of the bloodline with other people involved, whatever. That's why the booking, the take I gave extends it out more than anything. But, it's wrestling. So is it the most ideal way to have the Usos win, move on, win the titles, and then have Roman say, like, I want those titles, and then you do that at Survivor Series? Like, you could do that and give them all their own space for a period of time. But it just depends, like, do I think they're going to be interacting 24/7 for the next 6 months until WrestleMania? Probably not. But, I certainly see WrestleMania being Jay and Roman one-on-one for the title or not for the title. And or if The Rock somehow gets involved, which I don't think is going to happen. He's about to sign for Fast 12 and 13. So it's just I think Mania is like the like if you're going to put this in a neat little package, it's Roman coming back, winning the title to next year's WrestleMania to be the beginning and end of the bloodline story, and what they do from the in between. I think can be good, but the Jimmy stuff and Jay then going on the path to take on all the members of the bloodline, I think is the best way to go. But we'll see. I've been wrong at this being in the third inning. Like I made fun of that when it happened. When they said, "Oh, we're in the third inning," like, there's nothing left to tell, and then they've been all this stuff, and you know, Paul Heyman adding people, Paul Heyman switching sides and like giving Jay the thing. Like if Paul Heyman on this match like goes and helps Jay do something, or maybe he does and then Jay decides not to do it and then Roman beats him, but then he's like, Paul, what the hell was that? Why'd you give Jay this I don't know, this item to hit me with? And then you do that, you know, all that can be done and extended, and then Paul can be the guy who's, you know, quivering in fear for 4 weeks, and then finally Roman turns on him and it's just Roman and Solo. And then, you know, there's all machinations of literally all roads lead to Roman being alone, and he threw everything away for this title and he loses that title and he's got nothing left. And that's the story to tell, right? So as long as it ends on in that note, then it was all worth it, right? So
yeah. Well said. I like it. All right, guys, we'll wrap up there. Our last question for you though, Tyler. Fight Forever, AEW video game, came out this week. I'm not a gamer. I like playing video games, but I would not consider myself a gamer by any means. Mixed reviews at best, I would say. I've played it, and for me, like, I like simple. Like some of the WWE 2K games are like, too much. I can't follow all this. Too much. You know, forget it. But the other one, like this game, I've had fun playing. it, and you know, it's simple. Like if you're expecting this really complicated game, like that's not what this is. It's very simple and to the point and easy to follow. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But all in all, I've played it, I don't know, probably 120 minutes over 4 days. Like, it's been a fun little game. I like being able to carry it around with the Switch. It's a fun little arcade type game, but not much more than that. Any thoughts, or what have you heard on it? You were very critical.
Yeah, I mean,
I
mean, so my 2 out of 10 is probably a little hot of a take. I mean, you know, IGN is like probably the main place people get, besides Metacritic, which is a compilation of everybody. I think it had like a 60 on Metacritic, and then IGN gave it a 6 out of 10. But, you know, a game's got to be pretty much not playable and broken to get like less than a 5 from their rating systems. They're pretty kind to a lot of stuff. You know, that'd be like us rating, I don't know, what's been a pretty bad match in recent weeks, given that, like, you know, 2 stars when it's really like 0 stars. So It's kind of that whole thing of like, you know, I think we're actually more critical in our space than a lot of other spaces are when they're talking about the products they're talking about. So, but I think you summed it up. I mean, Stephanie let me know her thoughts because she had a code, and I think she did a video on Wednesday when she could talk about it. But yeah, it tracks with what you're saying. I watched the review. It seemed like that case. You know, I have a copy of WWF in your house from the original PlayStation here. And I assume that it's that style. I mean, looking at it, it's definitely like a pick up and play thing. But I think that is inherently the problem, is that you've played it for 2 hours, and you know, how much more are you going to be playing it? You know, are you going to play it for 8 hours total? Are you going to pop it on occasionally? You know, the online doesn't seem to work very well, whatever. It's just more like, how much did this cost and how much did it make? I would love to know. The UK is the only country that does like video game sales reporting at all, which is interesting. So a lot of the industry bases on that because you bought your version on the e-store, I assume. Yes. Or did you buy it from like Target? So Nintendo does not release that stuff. They're a private company. So is Sony. They're both private companies. They don't release sales of their online stores. Microsoft does because they're a publicly traded company, but you have to dig through the 10K reports quarterly to do that. So I'm curious what this sells. If you don't hear anything, then that is what it is. If there's not like a plan for Fight Forever 2 at some point, then that tells you what you need to know. You know, it seems like a fun time. I hope it gets patched and you can, you know, do more character modification and things like that. Because I don't have a problem with like kind of cartoony graphics and all that stuff. I do like that you can unlock the sad exploding barbed wire deathmatch finish. If you have look it up, you can unlock the real life explosion at the end.
How do you do that?
There's just YouTube it. You'll see there's like a code to unlock it, which is hilarious. So that stuff I like, but you know, is this the utter failure that I thought it would be? Probably not. It just is like a mediocre game that took a long time to make. So, you know, is it a thing where I'm happy that there's different games and different companies out there. Yes, in the end, but will I be purchasing this? Certainly not. If I got a code to review it, I certainly would play it and review it. But that's kind of where I am. So based on what I've heard, it just doesn't seem like there's a ton of replayability. But I'm also not I think the last WWE game I bought was like 2K18. So I'm just not I like video games, but I don't like to watch wrestling for 10 hours a week and then play wrestling games for 8 hours a week. I kind of like to separate those two things as well. So that's just my personal
other interests. What the?
Yeah.
Come on.
Who can?
Don't be ridiculous.
Barely.
Don't be ridiculous. What kind of game is your kind of game?
Yeah, I mean, pretty normal AAA stuff. Like I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom right now. I'm gonna play Starfield in the fall. But like a big single player RPG, like Final Fantasy 16 is up next for me. So big time, in depth video games. And I like indie titles too. Pizza Tower is very good. If anyone hasn't played that, I would suggest you look at that.
Pizza Tower,
give that a shot. Yeah, it's a fun game. It's probably one of those like the indie game of the year. Yeah, I mean it's just like more the theme of it. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like a three-quarter ISO game. It's very fun. But that's like my I play mainly AAA big time games and then occasional $5 Steam games here or there. So
nice.
I'm pretty streamlined down the middle, play the big games kind of gamer. So
yeah, I got Tears of the Kingdom going now too. That's a fun one.
It is.
But cool, man. All right. Well, thanks to everybody who joined us live. Really fun show. So Hazan, thank you as always. Cody and Rin and Milano and Dr. Ross. Hopefully you're enjoying the wrestling world being focused on you guys out there. Zach and Sean and everybody else. Thank you. Hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. We certainly would appreciate it. Tell a friend to check out the channel. We are growing by leaps and bounds. And we'll continue to do so throughout the summer and into the fall. We got you covered at PWTorch.com all weekend long for Money in the Bank. We got show reports from Wade and show reports from Brandon LeClaire that will be up live Saturday afternoon. I'll have a preview column dropping early tomorrow morning, taking a look at the show. And then, of course, tonight we'll have you covered on all things SmackDown. So keep it locked there to PWTorch.com. Thank you, everybody. Tyler, good chat, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Yep. Cool. See you guys.
Later.